It was a quiet evening in a small, dusty town, the kind of place where sunsets painted the roads gold and people kept to themselves. The rumble of engines from the biker garage broke the silence as the Iron Hearts Motorcycle Club gathered after a long ride. Suddenly, the door creaked open. A small boy, no older than 7, stood there, barefoot, dust covering his tiny face, eyes red from crying. He looked up at the group of men covered in tattoos and leather jackets, his voice trembling but sharp as a knife. "They took my sister." The room went silent. Every biker froze. Their leader, Jackson Steele, slowly set down his mug of coffee, his jaw tightening. Without another word, he stood up, grabbed his helmet, and said in a low growl, "Boys, no one touches a kid in our town." Engines roared like thunder as the bikes rolled out into the dark, the boys' tear-filled eyes reflecting the fire of their headlights. That night, the town would remember, the Iron Hearts were not just bikers, they were guardians of their own. The name of the boy was Eli. He had been walking for miles from the edge of town, clutching a torn backpack that once belonged to his sister, Lila. She was only 12, a sweet girl who loved drawing and dreamed of becoming a teacher one day. But 2 nights ago, everything changed. Their mother had passed away a year back, and their father, broken and lost, had left them with a neighbor who wasn't much better than the streets themselves. One night, a group of men came in a van. They promised work for the woman taking care of them, but when she refused, they took Lila instead. Eli ran after the van until his feet bled. But no one stopped. No one cared. Until he heard the sound of bikes. He remembered hearing stories that the Iron Hearts might look dangerous, but they always stood up for the weak. With nothing left to lose, Eli found his way to their garage, guided only by the sound of roaring engines and the hope that someone, anyone, would listen. When he spoke those 4 words, "They took my sister," something inside Jackson Steele broke open. Jackson had once lost his own little sister in a kidnapping years ago. He had found her too late. Since then, he had lived with guilt, hiding it behind a rough exterior, the life of a biker who had seen too much pain and too little justice. Now, seeing Eli trembling before him, he saw himself and the second chance he never thought he'd get. "Do you remember anything about the van?" Jackson asked gently. Eli nodded, black, with a snake symbol on the side. The room erupted with murmurs. "Snake's Den Gang." Jackson's eyes hardened. "They've been running girls through the old highway route," he said. "We warned them to stay out of our county." He turned to his crew. "Mount up. We ride tonight." Engines roared to life. As they sped through the night, Eli sat behind Jackson, clutching his jacket tight, whispering prayers his mother had taught him long ago. The night stretched long. The moon followed their trail. And somewhere in the dark, Lila was waiting. The bikers split into groups, each covering a different route. Jackson's group followed Eli's memory of a dirt road leading into the woods. The smell of smoke and gasoline filled the air. They soon spotted faint tire marks, and then, a dim light flickering behind an abandoned warehouse. Jackson signaled the crew to cut their engines. Silence fell. Only the chirping of crickets and Eli's small, shaky breaths filled the air. Jackson crouched down, eyes locked on the building. "Stay here, kid. We'll get her." But Eli grabbed his arm, his eyes pleading, "Please don't hurt them. Just bring her back." Jackson gave a small nod. "I promise." Moments later, the bikers moved like shadows. They broke through the back fence, taking out 2 guards silently. Inside, they heard muffled crying, several girls locked in a room. Jackson kicked open the door. "It's over," he said firmly. The girls flinched in fear, until one small voice whispered, "Eli? Lila." Jackson smiled faintly, "Your brother sent us." But before they could leave, the gang leader, Reed, appeared with a shotgun. "You think you can walk into my place and take what's mine?" he barked. Jackson stepped forward calmly. "She's not yours. She's a child." Reed sneered, "You bikers think you're heroes? You're trash." Before he could finish, one of Jackson's men tackled him, knocking the weapon aside. The fight was quick and brutal. When it was over, the police sirens echoed in the distance, a call Jackson had placed before entering. The Iron Hearts didn't wait for applause. They quietly left the scene as officers arrived, leaving only a note on the door. "Protect your children, or we will." Back at the garage, Eli ran into his sister's arms, crying uncontrollably. Jackson stood a few feet away, watching, a faint tear escaping his tough eyes. Lila looked up at him and whispered, "Thank you." He smiled softly. "Thank your brother. He's braver than most men I know." As the sun rose over the town, Eli and Lila were safe and Jackson finally felt a weight lift off his chest, a redemption he never expected to find. The engines of the Iron Hearts started again, rumbling through the morning air. And as Eli waved goodbye, Jackson said quietly to himself, "No one gets left behind, not this time." Direct hit message and emotional closing. This story reminds us that even in a world full of darkness, courage can come from the smallest hearts, and sometimes, heroes wear leather jackets instead of capes.